A new cache of Homeland Security documents obtained by NBC News shows that federal law enforcement were directed to make public comments sympathetic to the Kenosha shooter, Kyle Rittenhouse. So, oh boy. So now Kyle Rittenhouse is a 17-year-old conservative Trump supporter. He's currently awaiting trial for murdering two protesters in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Now, the documents are filled with official talking points that were distributed to Homeland Security officials, and it's just, these are gross. So now, one of them basically is preparing Homeland Security officials for questions about Rittenhouse from the media. Now, the document suggests that they note that he, quote, took his rifle to the scene of the rioting to help defend small business owners. That is official talking points from the Homeland Security. Oh, no, he took his gun illegally across state lines, not mentioning that, when he's not a legal age to be a gun owner, open carried it and shot two people. But he was, quote unquote, defending small business. Right. Another set of talking points distributed to officials said the media were incorrectly labeling the Patriot Prayer Group as racists after clashes erupted between them and protesters in Portland. In fact, look, President Trump himself, as well as Republicans, tried to paint Patriot Prayer as a Christian prayer group. Oh, I can't believe those Antifers are going after this Christian prayer group. How terrible of them. No, Patriot Prayer is an ultra-violent right-wing group. In fact, David Newart, writing for the Southern Poverty Law Center, described Patriot Prayer as basically going around and trolling the Pacific Northwest with the intention of provoking violent responses from anti-fascists. So they go and they pick fights with anti-fascists. Now, Newart also noted that founder Joey Gibson had denounced white supremacists and neo-Nazis during an August 13, 2017 rally in Seattle, the day after the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, and described that Gibson explained in subsequent interviews that he aims to actively exclude white supremacist groups. During the August 13 rally in Seattle, such groups had no presence. However, a week earlier at another rally in Portland, which was led by Gibson, members of Identity Evropa were in attendance, which again is a white nationalist group. Overall, the Southern Poverty Law Center describes Patriot Prayer as a violent extremist group on their site. So much for being a prayer group. Not really. Not really. Again, they go around looking to pick fights with people on the left. Ultra-violent. All right. So, look, the fact is, you've got federal government officials that were given talking points that were favorable to right-wing groups to make Patriot Prayer look like victims, as well as to defend Kyle Rittenhouse and make him look like a victim, and to make the shooting of three people, the deaths of two people, justified. They're absolutely caping for the far right on purpose. In fact, four former Homeland Security officials, two of whom who worked for Republican administrations, said it was unusual for law enforcement to be instructed to weigh in on a case involving a particular group or individual before investigations have concluded. Quote, this is Peter Bugard, who was a spokesperson for Homeland Security during the Obama administration, says it is unprecedented as it is wrong. What strikes me, and this is Elizabeth Newman, who served as DHS Assistant Secretary for Threat Prevention and Security Policy in the Trump administration, said, what strikes me about the talking points is that they didn't call for calm among the public. Even in the early hours after the incident, it was known private militias had self-deployed. They seemed more interested in Rittenhouse's reputation than calling for calm and actual law and order. Well, of course, that's because this administration is filled with white nationalists. This is who they are. And they play to that base. This is who they're counting on in order to keep them in power. This is why Donald Trump refuses to openly denounce them. And it's the easiest thing in the world to denounce them. I mean, I denounce white supremacist groups. Wow, that's hard. No, it's actually not. But look, the only reason it would be difficult to denounce white supremacist groups is if they're the ones that are buttering your bread. The ones that are going to keep you in power if you decide not to accept election results. This is real, guys. This is real. Now, there's more talking points here that they were instructed to say. One of them was Kyle Rittenhouse was seen being chased and attacked by rioters before allegedly shooting 3 of them, killing 2. Who else shot them? Where's the allegedly in there? No, they shot him. He shot him. And look, so let me break that down, okay? Because there's a lot of misinformation going on. But so far from the investigations, we've seen that there was his first victim, Joseph Rosenbaum, who was following him. He threw a plastic bag at him. A plastic bag! How dangerous! And at one point, Rosenbaum, who appeared to be unarmed in at least one video, threw the plastic bag, which landed short of Rittenhouse, and within seconds of that, Rosenbaum was shot and fell to the ground. But the talking points have said that subsequent video had emerged reportedly showing that there were multiple gunmen involved, which would lend more credence to self-defense claims. But wait a minute. Who were the ones that were mostly armed? You had a lot of people who were armed in the right-wing militias. Actually, very few of the protesters were armed. And there was one, and it was one of the men who were shot, who had a handgun. This was Gage Grosskreutz. He was actually shot at and hit in the arm. Now, he didn't actually fire his weapon even after being shot. Now, Anthony Huber was also the other man that was shot. You know what he was armed with? A skateboard. And still, those two went to try to disarm the shooter after he had shot someone else. Now, Grosskreutz had his hands up when Rittenhouse aimed his gun at him, and then stepped forward in what I assumed to be an attempt to disarm the shooter. And that's, of course, because he had just proven how dangerous he was and was an active shooter that they were trying to take down. So, look, those are what we know about the case. Looks pretty bad for Rittenhouse. And yet the government officials were told to defend him anyway in their talking points. The document instructs officials, if they're asked about Rittenhouse, to say they're not going to comment on an ongoing investigation, even though the previous talking points were mentioned, and that, just like everyone else in America, is innocent until proven guilty and deserves a fair trial based on all the facts, not just the ones that support a certain narrative. This is why we try the accused in the court of law, not in the star chamber of public opinion. But at the same time, they're saying, well, we can't comment on that. But look at these far-left Antifa over here, violent extremists. Oh, my God. No, you can't do that. No. Officials were also instructed to talk about law and order. Quote, "This is why we need to stop the violence in our cities. Chaotic and violent situations lead to chaotic and violent and tragic outcomes. Everyone needs law and order." That's Trump's talking point. That's the right wing's talking point right there. The law and order, law and order. Look, I've got a fairly good idea, even though, they're saying that, well, we don't know if who's actually ordering these talking points. I kind of figured who it comes from. No, it's coming from the top. It's coming from the top. How much more, evidence do you need? Donald Trump defends white nationalists and white supremacists because that's what he is. He is showing you who he is. During the debate, he told the Proud Boys, a group that actually openly espouses violence against liberals, Gavin McInnes, on his show, consistently says we should be more violent towards liberals. That is the group that Donald Trump told to stand back and stand by. That is a situation, that is a phrase that the Proud Boys were super happy to hear. They even have t-shirts, stand by. No. And by the way, in that same debate, He blamed all of the violence on the left, which isn't even true. Right-wing violence has actually killed a lot more people than left-wing violence in America. That includes police officers. Sovereign Citizens is a right-wing movement, right-wing group that has killed literal policemen, ambushed policemen. And so I'm not saying that left-wing violence doesn't happen. It does. It is dwarfed, though, massively by the sheer amount of right-wing domestic terror in this country. And yet, and by the way, Republicans, we're all about talking about, oh my God, look at these violent Muslims coming into the country and doing terrorism. We haven't heard much about that anymore, ever since the Obama administration had ended. Donald Trump got elected, but boy, except for the Muslim ban, of course. But wow, they now love to talk about Antifa. Love it. It's amazing. And by the way, speaking of the Obama administration, they tried to, track right-wing domestic terror groups and put a stop to them. And then the Republican Party complained, like, oh, no, those guys are our base. No, we love those guys. How dare you go after them? How dare you? And so the Obama administration stupidly, because Republicans complained, said, okay, we're not going to look at those groups anymore. We're just going to focus mostly on Islamic terrorism. Well, and that's why we're in the situation we're in. But while the Obama administration ignored right-wing terror, now you have the Trump administration actively supporting it, defending it, and encouraging it. This is where we're at. These are dark times. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.